Sit With Me. I am your host, Torrie Christina, and we're here to talk about mental health. That's what this show is all about. This podcast is dedicated to showing you ways to manage your mental health. And even through your listening and experiencing the things that we talk about on this platform, you may be able to recognize some of your mental health issues that you'll be able to manage and just really grab hold of. The purpose of my show has been birthed out of my own experience with PMDD, which is it's like a hyper PMS, but they say it like on steroids. And it's so funny because I ran into somebody and I was talking to her about it, and she says, I think I have that too. And I'm like, no, when you have something that's not right. It's not a think thing. It's a no. So it's a definite difference in my mental capacity during that time and what I can handle and what I can do. And I had to come to a place where I am able to manage it and even calendar it, how it happens and what I need to do this day and that day. And that takes a lot of work, but I have to come to a place where I feel like I'm responsible for my mental health.
Okay.
And so that's what I want to do with you all is give you the tools that you need to be responsible and manage your mental health. So today we have with us Lanita Parrish. How are you?
Well, thank you.
I'm so happy to have you here. I'm so happy you told me yes, because you guys don't know her, but if you see her, she's very quiet. She's not like super people-y.
I am slow to warm. Yes.
And so when I asked her to be on the show, I was like, I'm not sure she's going to tell me yes, but she did. So I'm glad she's here. So can you please tell our audience a little about what you do professionally?
Okay. Professionally, I am a licensed mental health counselor. I have to congratulate myself because it was a long process after or post-graduation with my master's. I work at a middle school now. I've worked in other mental health agencies, but currently I work in a middle school. And I service 6th through 8th graders.
Wow.
Yes. Post-pandemic. How about that? Or during pandemic and now post-pandemic or pandemic, who knows where we really are.
So you were
in the
doing that
situation.
before the pandemic as well in the school?
This is my 3rd school year.
Okay.
So I started middle school, and this is my first time working in a middle school setting full time. Now, I've gone into schools before, but never being housed.
And now you're stationed on the campus.
Yes.
Okay.
So 2019, October, and then rolled right into, couldn't have been no more than 4 or 5 months, March. We're talking about, we're going home. The country is shutting down. So, guess a little but not much. But yes, I work with these beautiful kids, and I provide them support, encouragement, a listening ear. I walk alongside of them in their trauma, their struggles, their challenges, which vary.
What kind of challenges are you seeing that are specifically linked to COVID? Are you seeing that in the kids much, or is it just your basic traumatic issues that kids go through that age?
Well, it is.
I guess I shouldn't say basic and traumatic together. Ain't nothing basic about something traumatic.
That's true. That is that is so true.
But what are you seeing out of the kids?
Anxiety. I'm seeing anxiety. Divorce rates are growing. Kids that are now dealing with the transition of parents divorcing. Aggression.
I always wondered about that. Let me stop you right there, because I did work at a middle school for
Yep.
a year,
Mhm.
and I noticed that the girls were extremely aggressive towards the little boys. I was like, y'all cannot be hitting on them all the time. And I know they like them, but I
Mhm.
mean like hitting, like abusive hitting. I didn't really understand that. So when you say aggression, are you talking about things like that, or is it just like their attitude, their energy? What is it?
Not at my school, but
Hmm.
I have been told by school administrators where I work that the county is seeing an uptick in sexual aggression.
Really?
All
Wow.
over
Hmm.
the county. But no, in my case, the aggression is anger,
Mm.
angry outbursts, um, parent-child conflict in the home.
Hmm.
So that's the aggression that I am seeing on my caseload.
Hmm.
Um, Low self-esteem, socialization issues. Now, we will say that we think that is directly related to being at home those
Oh.
months,
Hmm.
the socialization issues, as well as pandemic anxiety. Don't know.
Still worried about. Yeah.
Yes, because God only knows what was being said in the home, what they were
Oh.
hearing,
Mhm.
television,
So you're
phone.
telling me, like, the kids are actually, like, scared at school?
Um, about the pandemic,
Mhm,
maybe not so much now because
mhm.
you've seen a lot of less mask wearing.
Right.
But in the beginning of the school year and last school year, especially when the kids came off of somewhat of that hybrid,
Mhm. They had the option to go.
right,
Mhm,
and transitioning back into full-time school, there was a lot of anxiety there. And
mhm,
then you have those sixth graders, unfortunately,
mhm.
already
That's
dealing
already
with,
a rough year.
come on now.
Right. That's a rough year.
Come on now. You do
Yeah.
middle school from elementaries, most
Oh, I
times
can't imagine
kids.
how that what they went through.
hmm And most times kids struggle from elementary to middle,
Right.
right? You got all these changing classes,
Mhm,
more teachers,
mhm.
different personalities you have to learn. Just
Yeah, because in elementary school, they're just in one class all day. So
basically.
now you're going to the school, you're switching classes. I got a
hmm
mask on. I don't want to catch COVID.
hmm
I know with my kids, I was like, wash your hands, stay out of people's face,
Right.
keep your mask on.
hmm
Like even the parents, I know that it was hard to send your kids back to
Yeah.
school because not knowing if they were going to come home with
hmm
COVID.
Right.
So that had to be difficult.
Right. In addition to everything else you
The
need to know.
normal, yeah. So, are the kids able to come and see you at will?
No. Well, uh, the process is my kids are referred to me by the guidance counselors.
Okay.
So they would have already met with the guidance counselor, established a rapport. The guidance counselor is seeing some type of pattern, thinking, okay, well, this is out of my scope. They
Mhm,
need more assistance.
mhm,
And then we talk about it in the afternoons. We call it a 3:30 meeting. We talk about it at 3:30, and they say they think that this student would be good for Parrish. And then if that be the case, they refer them to me. Now, I do have an open door policy.
okay.
So if guidance counselors are not available, kids can come and see me.
Oh, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to know if it was like an open door, yeah, like policy where they could always come in.
No,
Wow.
no, we have an intake process.
Mhm,
Consent forms must be signed,
mhm.
etc.
'Cause sometimes those things kinda make a barrier to people getting help, and I'm not just speaking about in your organization, but I've been a part of organizations where you have to go through a three-step program to get to where you need to get. And when you need to get there, I don't need to fill out
Other
80 forms
forms.
to get there. You know
hmm
what I'm saying? So I can imagine for a child, it might be a slight bit more difficult, but Yeah, I see how they have the guidance counselor in place, and then they're
Mhm.
able to move on from there.
Right, because if the guidance counselor can, maybe hash through some of it, might just be minor
Now, are
issues.
these positions new on campuses?
I'm 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 not certain how new. From what I understand, it's birthed out of the Stoneman Douglas, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act, the kids down in Parkland.
Oh,
And they did all
yeah.
of that
Yeah.
advocacy
Mhm.
and um work in Tallahassee.
Mhm.
And so now we're supposed to have what we call co-located mental health professionals. That's the
Mhm.
title, co-located mental health professionals
Okay.
on the campuses to be able to have that easy access for kids to seek services and also to prevent parents from having to pull them out,
Mhm.
taking off work. And then we were finding that kid agencies were filling up. So had a long waiting list,
Really?
right? You had some parents that were trying to find services in Port St. Lucie, just making drive miles and miles away. So, well, here I am, or here the co-located mental health professionals are right here on campus. Now it has its pros and it has its cons, but I think it's great that they can access it right there in school.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And to a parent that is listening, what are some of the things that parents need to look for if they like suspect, or
Hmm.
just, things to look for in your child concerning their mental health?
Subtle changes and drastic changes. I think you have to start with parents being present first.
Mm. And what
Being
do you mean
present.
by being present?
Um, Taking quality time,
Mm.
not necessarily quantity, but quality time.
Mm-hmm.
Check in with your kids often.
Mm-hmm.
Your kids tell you I'm fine, everything okay. Don't leave it there.
Right.
Probe.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to your kids and let them know it's nothing you can tell me that'll make me stop loving you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You got to be.
That's really important.
Okay.
Go back to that,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm raising 3 boys, and we've been through circumstances in them, growing up, and that was a message that I had to give one of them very specifically, so that they know that no matter what, I still love you. And that broke a barrier.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of times kids when they're dealing with things, and it could be the simplest things, but to a child, it may be like a whole mountain when it's really a molehill.
Absolutely. Perception.
Yes,
Mhm.
perception.
Mhm. I think parents can remember that children are children and they're in a child development state.
Wow.
So sometimes we expect our kids to process and navigate, process thoughts and emotions and navigate and interpret situations as we would as adults.
Mhm.
But guess what? That's because we've matured
Mhm.
and we've had experiences. So going back to just being present, if there's that parental intuition, okay, listen, don't leave it there. If your child is not willing,
Mhm.
then have a conversation about talking to your guidance counselor, finding somebody on campus. Just don't leave it there.
Mhm.
And we're busy a lot. Parents are trying to make ends meet. Um, they have situations, but you gotta make time. Turn them cell phones off. Turn the I was gonna say electricity, but don't do that. But you know how you can set the cable,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, cause my youngest one, I
Mm-hmm.
had to put that parental his, on his iPad, he has
Mm-hmm.
a set time where he could be on there, a set time
Yes.
for certain apps, and at first, when he first got it, he was just doing whatever. I was like, "Oh, no, that's not gonna work."
Mm-hmm.
So I had to put, and it's so funny because with those guidelines, he's really okay with it,
Mhm.
but he be waiting. He'd be like, "Okay, my time go off at 10 o'clock."
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
he's ready, like, he
Mhm.
knows he has this specific amount of time to do whatever he needs to do on there, but setting boundaries for our kids,
Mhm.
is very important
It is.
because when they don't have any boundaries, then, they're subject to do anything. But if we go ahead and set those boundaries, then we give them, even though I feel like kids do what they want to do,
Mhm.
but if you're giving them some sort of guideline, then they have a measure of how to react and act in certain situations and circumstances
Mhm.
if they have like that are those boundaries already set.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's move on to talk about oh, were there any other things that you would give parents? Being present, I think that was very
Mhm.
important.
I think I do want to circle back to the subtle and the drastic changes.
Okay.
Subtle changes you can, take note of again and have those conversations, whether it's seemingly isolating in the room, maybe some mild irritability,
Mm,
um, not showering as much,
mm.
not doing
What
your
is
hair.
that with not showering as much?
Wait, now are we talking about boys and typically boys, or are we
No,
talking
okay,
about?
like, I know
Mm-hmm.
boys, I got 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
I I don't know, one of them, I think he allergic, like, I was like, "Get your little butt in here."
Mm-hmm.
But no, I have a acquaintance that that's an issue with her child,
Mm-hmm.
and she actually said something about his mental health related to that,
Mm-hmm.
and I was wondering how does that go together? She really actually said that. That's why I was wondering.
Um, it just could be lack of interest. Maybe there's some signs of depression or anxiety.
Mm,
Um, maybe someone said something about the appearance of that particular child,
mhm,
and they are giving themselves some messages that just aren't true.
mm.
And it could, you have to sit down with the kid, but it could be a number of things.
Yeah,
It mhm,
that's so funny that you said that. Imma have to I will let her know after we're done.
mhm.
It does have something to do with that.
And if
But
it's
she
subtle,
really
mhm,
she really said that. She was like, "I don't know if he's depressed or
mhm,
what," because but that was one of the signs that
absolutely,
she's been seeing in him.
absolutely, covering up, like all of a sudden they layered in clothes,
Mhm.
and they just look disheveled. So that can be subtle, and then you have those drastic changes, which basically to me is you ignored the signs in the beginning, and
Mhm.
now they've escalated. So you're just like, well, dog,
Yeah.
outbursts, angry, not eating, sleeping, just grades are plummeting. That can seem to you drastic, but most times there were signs
Yeah.
along the way.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And we do miss those signs that you like you said as parents, you going in and out,
Hmm.
picking up people, dropping them off, whatever, and you're not like you're saying like in those moments have that quality time
Hmm.
where you're actually speaking with your child.
Hmm.
I always am very clear to speak with them, like actually listen and pay attention to what they're saying, even though it might be something I really don't want to talk about.
Hmm.
um, but just really am an active listener because my Jordan, my second oldest, he'll tell me about Jordan's a genius. So the things he talks about
Hmm.
is not what I want to talk about.
Hmm.
But I'll sit there and I'll like, oh, and I'll start asking questions just so that I could keep myself in tune with what he's saying. But just that part of being attentive to your children is very important.
And in individual styles. So, like you say, you
Right.
have three kids, and
There are
each of
three
them
different personalities.
exactly.
Mhm.
And so, I commend all parents, you as well, who attempt to be the the proper parent for each of your children. Some things you can do across the board, and then there are many things that you just can't. You have to speak to your child, who that child is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, on a personal note, have you yourself dealt with
Sounds good.
okay.
Okay.
Um okay, so moving forward, where I wanted to talk to you about is there any personal experience for yourself that you've had with your mental health?
Absolutely.
Like what?
Depression,
Mhm.
anxiety, suicidal thoughts,
Mhm.
medication,
Mhm.
therapy,
Mhm.
um, life coaching,
Mhm.
um, just an ongoing assessment of self care.
Yes.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So the depression and anxiety, I hear those a lot together.
Hmm.
Um, is that something that goes hand in hand?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Particularly in my case, the depression was a long term battle.
Mhm.
In my adulthood. It's definitely presented itself when my parents got divorced. So I
Okay.
was in my early 30s.
Mhm.
And
And they have been together since you were a child?
yeah, about 30 years.
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay.
A little over 30 years. And the anxiety I saw um, hit hard probably March, April, and May of 2020,
Hmm.
um, which was uh, we
I was gonna say
deep
that's
in
our pandemic year, right?
absolutely.
Oh.
But when I began my master's in mental health counseling and through the study,
Uh-huh.
right, I realized that I had some anxiety in my childhood.
Mhm.
And I recognized that by the way it presented itself with headaches, stomach aches.
Mm.
So, yes, don't want to get it muddied because I know we're probably going to, just touch on each, but
Mhm.
I've had my share even today. But it's not today leading up to this interview.
Mhm.
I would say anxiety symptoms, but
Okay.
not anxiety.
Okay, so what's the difference?
The difference is today I'm able to cope. There's no impairment.
Yes. See,
Okay.
yes. Talk about it.
Okay. Nothing impeded my function today. I was able to rely on my scripture a bit more.
Mhm.
Use my coping strategies.
Mhm.
Encourage myself in the Lord.
Mhm. Yes.
And just do cognitive reframing, which is stopping a negative thought. Hold it. I'm not even going to let this thought go all the
Right.
way through.
Uh-huh.
But hey,
Grabbing hold of it.
take captive. Come
Yes.
on
We
now.
pulling down
And
every thought. Yes, yes,
yes,
yes.
and so that's the difference. I had some anxiety symptoms, but I was able to self-regulate by using those coping strategies and um, strengthening myself and
Right.
motivating myself. Versus when I've had the anxiety to overtake me
Mhm.
in such a way where I'm in bed and I'm shaking.
Mm.
Um, I'm in bed and those thoughts are just intrusive.
Mhm.
I don't know what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
Can I effectively provide counseling
Mhm.
to my kids? Now, remember, this is the pandemic time.
Right.
Um, I already talked about the trembling, the
Mhm.
intrusive thoughts, being overwhelmed with them, and saying, "Hey, I need some medication."
Yeah.
And the depression, the guilt. So when you ask me, do they go hand in hand? Not necessarily, but in this pandemic, I did experience depression and anxiety.
Mm.
And I think that was a first for me.
Okay.
When my parents,
It was separate.
right, it was just mainly depression,
Depression. Mhm.
right? That anger that was internal,
Mhm.
and oh, it was a mess, that anger. We'll maybe touch on that. But so the depression and anxiety was hand in hand during the pandemic. Again, I felt like the rug was just snatched from underneath my feet. My foundation was shaking.
Mhm.
Just all these messages I was telling myself, and
Mhm.
it was just a lot. It was a lot for everybody. And people, remember now, people were dying.
Yeah.
That thing was
That
real.
it was, and I used to
Whew.
say, like, that's probably the hardest part with seeing
Mhm.
people lose family members that they couldn't go see. Like, I could not imagine the even now, the
Mhm.
aftermath of people dealing with, "I didn't get to go be by my mother's side."
Mhm. Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
that's really a very, I don't know, just kinda strange thing for me to wrap my mind around
Mhm.
how that worked.
Mhm.
So with your, depression and anxiety, how you're talking about the self-talk,
Mhm.
that is a big issue, and you said it didn't, what did you say? Like, you could, like, today you were able to cope with it,
Mhm.
and
Self-regulate.
it didn't make you where, like, it was debilitating.
Right.
Right, and so
Mhm.
that's what I have. Well, when I have, like, some of my episodes, sometimes they are debilitating.
Mhm.
Like I said, I'll be like, "I don't wanna go anywhere because I just can't." It just seems like I can't move forward, and it's so frustrating because I'm a person that loves to get things done,
Mhm.
and so in that time period when I'm going through those episodes, I cannot get anything done. And I definitely can't get it done right
Okay.
because my mind is not in a place that, I can really produce as I should. Um, but like you said, there are ways that we cope with those
Mhm.
things. Eye medication, also my spiritual relationship is definitely
Mhm.
a big help of how I use my spirituality to balance my mind. But it is really a job to maintain your mind,
Mhm.
a whole job,
Mhm. Mhm.
a whole job. So when you say you did your coping skills and it didn't get to a place where you weren't able to move and you're in the bed shaking,
Mhm.
like what gets you to what allows you to go into that a step further? Like, what keeps you from always maintaining and always coping?
What keeps me from always maintaining?
No, like,
Okay.
I don't know if I'm asking it right.
Mhm.
Like, if you're not able to maintain it and you do end up on the other side of it,
Mhm.
where you're in bed and you're shaking and all those things, what makes it go cross that line where you can't control it anymore, where you lose that control?
Okay. Um, chemical imbalances, sensory overload,
Mhm,
sensory overload. So chemical imbalances, the biology of it and the
mhm,
neurology of it,
mhm.
um, the serotonin.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's what I mean when I say chemical
balance.
imbalances, right?
Mhm.
Then sensory overload, just got way too much
Going on.
feed coming in.
Okay.
So there was a time when, hey, I can't hear nothing else about COVID. Right now, I can't. If my mama come tell me about one other person from the church passed, not right now. Like I can't. Facebook, folks' pictures. I got to get off of this. So that was the sensory overload, and then fear, unchecked fear, and negative messages, perceptions. Remember, I mentioned I felt again that the rug was pulled out from under me and that my foundation had been just totally dismantled. Because the first time I felt that was when my parents started that divorce process. So maybe somewhat prone to depression and anxiety. Maybe that's a path that some people are genetically prone to depression, anxiety, whether it be from their mother's prenatal lack of experiences, because a mom's pregnancy does impact
the child.
Exactly. Whether it was environmental, meaning some things were unresolved from my childhood, where I may have been a bit hypervigilant and nervous about some things and didn't speak that, or felt that I lost my voice in some cases, or dismissed by my parents, again, unresolved, and or just maybe dealt with, but not deep enough. And so here was an extreme trigger.
Right.
Okay. That took me somewhere, transported me back to a particular state and space, right? And
those traumatic experiences, because even with mine, I can maintain it pretty well when I'm doing well. Doing well, everything's great. But then when those stressful, traumatic situations happen, like you said, it's like the rug being pulled from under your feet. And if you're not cognizant enough to, know that, okay, that is my trigger, and that is going to trigger something. And so I have to be proactive in what I need to do because of this is happening, then it could go south. It could go really bad, really fast.
And it did.
Really bad, really fast. So, those are hard.
I jumped on that medication quick.
What I shared you guys with Lanita is that, of course, I am a Bible-based believer, and she is as well.
Yes.
And we do believe in the healing power of God. And this show is not targeted just for Christians or believers. It's for everybody, because Christ came in, he died for the whole world, not just a particular group of people. So in that, I have found that the church has sometimes, I'm talking about the institution of the church, not the body of Christ. They have been very resilient to support the taking of medication for mental illness. And especially when it comes to children and ADHD and all they'll be like, don't put them kids on that medicine. They're going to be all right. Let's go pray for them. And I do believe in the power of prayer.
Absolutely.
Lord knows, because I have been delivered, set free, and still dealing with some other stuff that he need to come get.
Right.
But until he comes and gets those things and delivers me fully from those things, I believe in the technology and the science that helps us maintain our mental health through prescription medication that is monitored and not abused.
Okay.
So, we know that people can get on things and abuse it, but we're not here even as a believer and as a responsible believer.
Mhm.
I think that that is not our intention. So we're not trying to become a drug addict.
Right.
We just trying to maintain our sanity.
Right.
And even in the body of Christ, I've seen people like lose it from trying to be perfect. I would There's one way to put it. You're trying to
Mhm.
be perfect and live up to these standards, and you already got mental health issues. That is a terrible mixture, and I've seen people just like completely go off kilt. So, how do you feel about I guess you said you do take prescription
I
medication?
have.
You have.
Mhm.
Okay. And I have in different dosage too. When I'm better, when I'm doing better
Mhm.
physically, mentally, really taking care of myself, like you say, and being very self-aware, I have been able to bring down how much I take.
Okay.
So I think that it's not just the medication, it's a you have to service your whole man.
Mhm.
So exercise matters.
Okay.
How I eat matters. Those things like really help me overall
Good.
and able to help me to be able to control
Mhm.
that. So yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So we have to do those things.
Mhm.
So what are some tips that you can give our viewers of coping mechanisms when you're in that place? You said what did you mention already? You said
Medication, therapy.
medication,
Mhm.
therapy, and even for children therapy.
Mhm.
Okay, what else? Or some what do you tell the kids when they come in with anxiety or in a school setting? Is there some kind of practice that you give them?
Yes, we have coping strategies, relaxation techniques, visualization. So with first I want to say that therapy is individualized, okay? We do have modalities, right?
Mhm.
Therapeutic modalities, which are just techniques
Okay.
that we learn as clinicians, and we teach, and then even in many cases rehearse. I'm smiling because I'm thinking about my kids who come in, and I'm like, okay, well, I just want to let you know today is the day that you got to show me that you know how to deep breathe.
Really? Oh,
Hmm.
my bad, y'all.
And they're like,
That you know how to deep so you go through these breathing methods with them,
hmm,
and then you're asking them to show you.
absolutely.
So how does that work?
It's called I need to know that you're competent. And,
A
you know,
whole check and balance. Yay,
okay.
you're not gonna be in here wasting my time, and you don't know how to breathe.
I don't present it that way, but I will tell them, listen, you're not gonna go out here and say therapy didn't work and not tell the people, listen, I didn't apply the techniques. But so yeah, that's just rehearsing.
Mhm.
And then there are some techniques that we use called behavioral rehearsal, where if there's a particular situation at school that the kids, for example, you wouldn't believe how many kids um, are overstimulated by the bell exchange.
Really?
Yes,
Like the bell going off in the classroom?
sometimes, and the actual
Oh, it being
exchanging
in the
classes,
hallways and everything?
some of the exchanging classes, the amount of people in the hallways, the
Oh.
what can feel like chaotic.
It is chaotic. I wouldn't even when I was
Mm-hmm.
teaching school, when that middle school, when they switched classes, I wouldn't go in the hallway because I
Mm-hmm.
wanted no parts.
Okay.
It
Mm-hmm.
is very chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's moving, pushing, running.
It's loud and
Yes,
folks, and
yeah. So
it's
you're like the overstimulation.
mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Also fear. I have a couple of kids who won't even go to their lockers, and their book bags are so heavy. and bless their hearts, you know, they're
Right.
bending over. They won't go to their lockers. It's just they don't know how to multitask that,
It's too
and
much.
right. And so with the behavior rehearsal and the helping with that anxiety,
Hmm.
we could go out in the hallways doing session, walk through. I could talk loud, hit on the lockers. You know what I mean?
Because
Makes
they will be hearing that
yes.
opening and closing.
And come on, let's go. Get your number out. And we've even done hand over hand with how to turn your locker to the right, circle it back around a whole rotation,
Oh,
and there you go.
but that is great.
Hmm.
Like how many kids would have benefited from that?
Hmm.
That had to go through those spells of anxiety of going in a hallway, but they didn't get that attention to actually practice doing it.
Hmm.
And like you said, especially sixth graders, that is the worst.
Bless their hearts.
I know. I'm crying right now for them. Like I feel really bad for them. Oh
Mm-hmm.
gosh.
Hmm.
And so y'all do rehearsals.
Hmm. The deep breathing, and again, I ask for it. So what I do is I set up a Google Classroom. Most parents should know about Google Classrooms by now
Mhm.
for each of my kids, and I will upload videos for them to watch, and I send messages. Okay, I need you practice, rehearse, da da da, da. And pop quiz. They never know when it's coming.
They're breathing they're breathing quiz. But
uh,
breathing works
mhm,
because I do breathing exercises when
mhm,
I'm feeling overwhelmed. But this one time I did like this breathing exercise and I
mhm.
was crying by the end, and I don't even know what was sad about it, but
Okay.
I think it was just such a release
Mhm.
when just being able to sit still and
Okay.
just breathe, and I don't know, it just released something out of me.
Mhm,
But yeah, I
mhm,
I love the breathing exercises. Those
mhm.
are great.
Sometimes we'll turn the light off in the room, and I'll go to YouTube and find a relaxation. That the water running, the
Oh
waves.
yeah.
But I have to monitor
Mhm.
because sometimes kids um, can't balance it, and you have to ease into or modify relaxation skills for some children. Some kids to just be totally quiet, right?
Mhm.
And to have nothing going on,
It's hard.
it's hard, and they're resistive. And that's to be expected with some kids. So you just have to
In the
modify.
world that we live in, they
Hmm.
have I mean, everything is
Attach to
yep,
these phones
phones
and
and everything. Like they don't even go outside no more. So to be
mhm.
not able to sit still, that is something.
Yeah.
That is really
Mhm.
something to think
Mhm.
about.
And we don't want it to be counterproductive. So that's why they have to show me,
Mhm.
because kids can tell you, yes, yes, I watch the videos.
Mhm.
Yes,
Oh, yeah, so you need
yes.
show me. Say, "What you watch?"
Hmm.
You watch nothing.
And then there's the visualization where can have the kids create something that makes them smile, and they can draw it, and then after their art piece or a picture or a memory, anything, just have them tell me about the details. How does it make you feel? Relax, calm, close your eyes now, visualize that, right? And especially for kids who have test anxiety,
Mm,
because I emphasize you can sit right at your desk and you can implement these coping strategies. Nobody's even knowing,
right.
nobody's even paying attention.
Mhm.
So to get them comfortable with, again, that practicality of therapy.
And that's so great from a young age to be receiving that, because that'll last up until their adulthood.
Absolutely.
Those same strategies. That's amazing. So you're like really changing kids' lives. Like some of them may never have the opportunity to go sit in a therapist's office, but because you're there on campus, they're able to, have access to these skills that are going to help them through life. I think that's absolutely amazing. That's great. I wish
Yeah.
every school had that, but like I said earlier, I've worked at a school that didn't even have a guidance counselor, let alone a mental health professional. But prayerfully, schools are doing new things with all this money that the government and what the lotto money though. The lotto money, does the lotto money still go to education?
Need the parents to advocate as
The
well.
parents, go find out where is the lottery money.
Well, I was saying I need the parents to advocate for resources on their kids' campuses.
I want the parents
This
to go
one
find
what
out
we're
where the
talking
lottery
about.
money is. Because I know they say they give some of that lottery money is supposed to go to schools. I don't. Where's the lottery money? But what you want the parents to do? Advocate.
Yeah, advocate. Say, hey, if we're the guidance counselors, this once again, you got to be present. We definitely need
to even know that. Yeah, that's what I found is like a lot of parents don't know what's going on at the school. Like, I hate the. I said I wasn't gonna do it. I can't talk about, but I just know some situations where, and it happens all the time where classrooms don't even have a permanent classroom teacher, and like go a whole year with a substitute. And I'm not saying the same substitute. I'm talking people going in and out, and parents don't even know because they'll send home the paper. But if you never read what's in your kid's book bag, you still don't know. But unless your kids actually talk to you and you're actually present, and then you find out those things. Yes.
Yeah, you got to go through those book bags. Ooh, because there's a lot of information just jammed and packed, and some of those book bags are just disorganized.
And I used to say, it would be cool if they would teach kids like organization skills and things like that, because that's pretty complicated too when you're switching classes, and especially those that are on block schedule. Like, how do I study for a test that I'm not going to have on the next day, but I'm going to have it the next day? And they're just, they have to figure that out on their own unless their parents teach them, because there's nothing in, I don't think, maybe in certain schools with more lottery money. The schools that's getting the lottery money, they have those kind of classes. But yeah, so Miss Lanita, we thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for sitting with me. Are there any last tips or words that you can give our audience when it comes to managing our mental health?
There's plenty tips. But I think I would say self-care is important, and it has to be intentional. Okay. Not only for yourself, but for your children. I think another tip, so intentional, if you're the type of person that logs everything into their phone, that Google Calendar or whatever it is, not trying to be funny, but please schedule self-care. 30 minutes, an hour. I think it's important for children to see their parents modeling self-care. It's very important.
That's good.
For parents to model self-care, because whether you know it or not, you're teaching your children how to treat themselves.
Right.
Okay?
Like, this is how it goes. And that is so important. Keep going.
Okay.
That's good.
Please know that therapy can be used as a prevention.
Mm-hmm.
I ask the community that's watching, that will watch, please don't wait until your family members are in a crisis to seek services. One reason why is because agencies are backed up. Waiting list. Okay.
Mm.
And sometimes it takes 2 or 3 tries before you have a good fit.
Right.
Okay.
It's true.
I know what I'm
I have
talking
several.
about. I know what I'm
But
talking about.
yeah.
Okay. I've had to go through a few therapists before I found the one that was a good fit.
Mhm.
And it's okay if that therapist was for a season,
Okay.
for whatever that situation was, and then you find another good therapist for where you are.
Like
right.
churches.
Y'all, let me tell you something. What's going on? Oh, Lord.
Go ahead.
Okay. So yes, please don't wait till a crisis. Prevention is like you have all the medical, the medical community always advocating testing early.
Yeah.
Okay, for prevention.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing for mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's good.
If medication will be prescribed, same thing. Sometimes you have to go through a few types of medicine. I know what I'm talking about. I started off with Lexapro for my antidepressant. Made my stomach hurt. Tried something else. I don't remember what it was, but didn't land it on Wellbutrin. It's a godsend. Okay? So if we don't even have to get there because of prevention,
right,
that'll be great.
And really, in when you're saying prevention, and when those traumatic instances do come to the surface, that we're dealing with it instead of just sweeping it under the rug, especially with our children.
Right.
When you know your child has gone through something traumatic, get the child some help and continue to deal with it, so it's not something that the enemy can use in their lives, because he will use it.
Right. Because kids can show a certain amount of resiliency, and we'll say, "Oh, they fine. They'll be all right."
Right.
Kids go on.
They bounce back. So yeah, you wouldn't know, but it's the responsibility of an adult to really make sure that that is confronted and dealt with.
Yes.
Not ignored.
Please.
Even if the child is smiling, laughing, loving on the person that did it to them.
Come on.
Do not ignore it.
You can't take trips to Disney and Universal and substitute that.
Right. Try to make it up. That's
for therapy.
Yeah, that's not therapy. They
That's
need to
not
talk about it. I know a lot of times I've helped a lot of people when they're dealing with their trauma. And the one thing I've always taught people is you have to talk about it. Because once you bring light to it, like nobody can't use that against you, because you really not really accept that it happened, but maybe just recognize that it happened, like, and make it true. Because sometimes it can almost seem like a distant memory. It was a dream. No, this did happen. And just acknowledging that. That's what it is. Acknowledging that something traumatic happened and you survived it, and you can be better for it. And you can take that bad thing and make it good, but you can't do nothing with it if you bury it.
Okay. You better go ahead.
It'll just be buried. And one day it's going to rain really hard and it's going to come right back to the surface.
My Lord.
So we have to deal with our trauma.
Yes. Parenting classes. I am accredited in a evidence-based parenting program called Triple P. And it's rolled out pretty heavily with Children's Service Council and Children's Home Society. And parents can access Triple P privately or through the Bridge program. Have you heard of Bridges before? So it stands for Positive Parenting Program, and gives you basic tips, child development, homework. Got a child that's stubborn, just anything from small concerns to those heavy levels of Triple P, like level 4 and 5, when we're talking about partner conflict that's impacting parents. Impacting the children, or just intense behaviors from the child. So I would say take a parenting class. It's not to say that you aren't parenting well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's like such a stigmatism on parenting classes, but when I really think about it, people always like, you wish you had an instruction book. Well, they do have parenting classes that people have access to. Like, you could just take a parenting class.
Absolutely. Take a parenting class is just because always, mental health is expanding and it's becoming more sophisticated. We're learning more. And so just some tips of how to communicate.
Right.
And maybe you've forgotten what it's like to be preteen and girls that are starting to menstruate. Right? If I said that correctly, but starting their menstrual cycle and what that means for hormones and so forth, and tips on single mothers, how to approach certain situations with their sons. Just get a parenting class. It doesn't belittle you or devalue what you've done already, but it's helpful. Okay, again, for being able to recognize some of those subtle changes that we talked about,
right?
That you can then decide if prevention is necessary versus intervention,
right?
Other tips, probably, again, just make a habit of just turning everything off at a certain time. Your kid's not gonna die without that phone. I'm trying to tell you, they're doing some good. Get them in situations where they can learn social skills, how to interact. Well, you should see some of the kids won't even say, "Excuse me, thank you, please." I mean, I don't know what's going on, but Jesus God, I mean, just having courtesy,
common courtesy,
yeah. And dealing with peer interaction appropriately, and how to manage when someone speaks ill of you, because back in the day, sticks and stones,
right?
Name that,
and we already know
names hurt.
My feelings was hurt.
Yeah, names hurt. So just being able to navigate
how to handle it,
so
that it doesn't become something that is
the message. It doesn't become who you are because somebody said that. Again, that's why that quality time is so important. And you got to check in with your kids, because they're getting all kind of messages in these schools, honey.
Right.
It's a lot being said and shared in these schools, and it can just my Lord, it's scary, and you got to be able to, I don't want to say reprogram your kids, But you got to be able to take that world off your kids.
Yeah.
And re-emphasize the values and the morals and the ethics that you are teaching at the home, because sometimes what's being taught in the home is a lot of times not popular at school.
Exactly.
Right? And they trying to belong. Let's be real.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to be accepted because that is development.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They follow kids they want to be a part of.
Right.
Because
trying to find a space.
That's development.
Yeah.
And so parents gotta be there. You know what I'm saying? Force feed it. But that's why if you take some parenting tips.
Some foundation.
Come on. It help you learn some lingo. And, you know what I'm saying? Did you see this on your kid phone? And you'd be surprised about the apps these kids have. And these secret codes.
Undercover.
And stuff. That's why if you take some parenting classes, you can get hip, because they'll tell you about all this stuff.
No, I use my teenagers for my little one.
Okay.
I tell them, okay, so because there's this one game that he just dying to play. He's like, and you know, he's 7. So he's telling me, oh, I can play that game because so-and-so his same age plays the game, but that don't mean you could play it. Then so I asked my kids, like, is this appropriate for him to play? They're like, absolutely not, because you know they have access to, because it's like, you know, where they play with other people online.
Yes.
Yeah, and you definitely no.
It's a lot of predators.
Yes,
getting a hold to our kids through these virtual realities and whatever that.
The VR.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we have one, and the kids, the older ones, played with it for like a day, and I haven't let the little one play with it yet, because I said I haven't even really explored it myself to see what it does. But yeah, no, you don't need to be in there. It's just weird anyway. So. Yeah, so we thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure.
This has been
Thank you for
really
having me.
good. I love, especially when we're talking about our kids and what we can do to bring them value in their mental health. And so you guys have heard it here at Sit With Me. And this is Lanita Parrish. I am your host, Torrie Christina. Please look out for us. We're going to be coming up with some other ideas and some other things outside of the podcast. So please follow me at The Real Torrie Christina. That's on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, which I haven't made not one TikTok video, but I be on there watching. Let me tell you, them people on TikTok
got time. I don't know where they find it.
No, have you watched TikTok live? Girl, Friday nights. See, I be Friday nights, TikTok live is something else. There's like people on there playing bingo, people on there praise dancing, people on there reading tarot cards. There's all, when I tell you, it's wild. Okay. It's so funny. You got to check it out. TikTok, they need to pay me for that ad I just did for TikTok Live on Friday nights. If you're not doing that this Friday, jump on TikTok Live. All right, y'all. We'll see you on the next podcast. Thank you for sitting with me.